Welcome to Agriculture in Review, a news program of current interest to South Dakota farmers and ranchers, prepared by the South Dakota Farmers Union. This is Allan Burke. Agriculture should either be given real, meaningful priorities in fuel allocation programs, or the industry should be told that it has no priority and will have to fend for itself. That was the message delivered to a Senate Small Business Subcommittee recently by Rocky Mountain Farmers Union President John Stencel. The subcommittee is looking into the effects of the energy crisis on small businesses. Testifying for the National Farmers Union, Stencel told the subcommittee that in at least one important sense, the overwhelming majority of farmers today can be termed small businessmen. He pointed out that increasingly, farmers buy a larger share of the inputs necessary for food and fiber production. Presently, he said, farmers purchase about 62% of total production items. This means that farmers, similar to other small businessmen, cannot simply tighten their belts, pay themselves a smaller wage, and try to survive a cost-price squeeze. The farmer must be able to plan like other small businesses. If he is to invest heavily in expensive land, equipment, and supplies, he must have some assurance that bottlenecks will not occur in fertilizer, fuels, and other inputs that will make it impossible for him to gain a fair return on his capital investments. Agriculture has been encouraged to increase livestock numbers, crop acreage, and generally to go for all-out production, Stencel pointed out. He said most farmers are anxious to expand to meet this demand, but not at the risk of losing what they have. If farm production does not increase very much this coming year, one reason is readily apparent. The fuel allocations programs in effect now are based on prior use, not really on priority of use. Set-aside requirements have been dropped entirely for 1974, and farmers have been encouraged to increase harvested acreage about 17%. But it is impossible to produce and dry crops from these additional acres with the same amount of fuel as last year. It is impossible for fertilizer plants to manufacture nitrogen for this increased acreage with the same amount of natural gas as last year. Yet the fuel allocation programs, even if they worked otherwise, are designed to provide fuel to farmers only up to the levels used last year. A few months ago, producers, cooperatives, and others thought that agricultural production was to be given high priority on available fuels. We thought this meant that if 15 to 20% more fuel was needed, the administration would go all out to get the fuel delivered. But the term priority itself has lost all meaning in the confusing array of allocation programs for gasoline, middle distillates, and propane. Even former Energy Chief John Love has conceded that everyone seems to be in a priority category. We recognize that there are other strong competing uses to which our energy supplies can be allocated, but some hard decision must be made as to where the nation wants to place its priorities among competing uses, and the public must be brought into those decisions. They cannot be made in Washington entirely. Stencel said priority should go to the farmers, ranchers, and cooperatives so that they can produce the food that the nation has called for. If this is not the decision, then farm people and agriculturally related cooperatives and other businesses should be told the truth, that they have no priority and must fend for themselves as best they can. In conclusion, Stencel urged that at least the following actions be taken. First, implementation of allocation programs with meaningful and enforceable priority schedules with a high priority to agricultural enterprises, including natural gas for the manufacture of fertilizer. Number two, a monitoring system, not several dozen of them, to keep an eye on energy production and consumption. And third, close, continuous scrutiny by Congress of the administration's monitoring and enforcement operations. And with that, we'll close another edition of Agriculture in Review. This is Allan Burke, asking you to join us again next week for another review of rural America's highlights. This program was produced by the South Dakota Farmers Union.